Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to change the oil in a 2021 KTM 500 EXC-F. It's really not that difficult, but there are a couple of minor differences from some of the other bikes I've worked on, so I thought it was worth doing another review on it. There are actually 3 drain plugs, which is kind of interesting. They really all do the same thing. We've got a couple of screens, but we'll go through all of that. The first step we're going to do is pull the skid plate off. With these Enduro Engineering skid plates that I'm running on this bike, you can actually get to the drain bolts through really nice holes in the skid plate, but I don't like the way the oil drains all over the skid plate and kind of makes a mess. So I'm going to pull the skid plate, and then there's 3 drain bolts that we're going to pull out. 2 of them have screens on them, and then we're going to pull out the oil filter, clean out everything, refill it, and we'll be good to go. You're supposed to do this every 10 hours according to the manual. We've got about 11 on here, so it's perfect timing. Let's dive in. Once you've got the skid plate out of the way, the proper procedure is to first pull this drain bolt on the far right. That's got the magnetic plug in it. Pull that out. Some of the oil will drain out when you do that. Next, you go for the bolt that's underneath, and then you pull this long screen out and clean that. These are all 13mm bolts, which are super convenient. That's our magnetic plug. You can see there's just a little bit on there. Given this is the second oil change, it's really not that bad. It's pretty standard. You do want to check these copper rings to make sure they're in good shape. This one appears to be. And you can go ahead and clean off all the crud that's on that magnetic plug. You don't want to put that back in. This is a screen from the bottom of the engine. You want to make sure that one's clean. Check the O-ring on the screw, and check the O-ring on the end of the screen. On this one, you want to check the rubber O-ring that's on here. This one's in good shape. A pair of needle nose pliers will let you grab that screen. Be gentle with the ends, they're just plastic. It's from the break-in. This is my second oil change, so it's pretty clean. It looks like this can go in either direction, and you do want to check the condition of these O-rings, especially if you've had the bike for a bit. And with most dirt bikes, it's a good idea to rock the bike back and forth, hold it way over on its side for a bit, and then the other side, that'll get any oil that's stuck in whatever parts of the engine to drain out. Good practice. Next, we're going to pull the oil filter. You take off these 2 screws. This cap comes out and the oil filter comes out. You will have to use a pair of needle nose pliers to pull the filter out of the housing. These are a T30 bit. Check the condition of the O-ring underneath this cover. And to get this filter out, the easiest thing I've found is to use a pair of needle nose pliers, spread them inside, and tug on it a little bit. I've tried lots of other ways of doing it, and that really is the only way that's super easy. While the rest of the oil filter oil is draining out, we're going to put all the plugs back in. I like to start with the screen, slide it all the way in. And make sure that your nut goes around it properly. You don't want to crush it. You can then put the screen back into the bottom of the engine and replace the magnetic drain bolt. You then want to tighten down all of the 3 drain bolts that you pulled out. Beware, the torque is really low on them. I don't know exactly what it is. I've got a pretty good feel for doing this for several years, but it's really, really easy to strip them out. They're aluminum bolts. I repeat, it's a low torque. Be careful with them. Now, one last thing, before you fill the oil in and close up the oil filter side of it, you want to lay the bike over on its right-hand side and fill the oil filter chamber about 2/3 of the way fill with oil, then put the oil filter in and close the cap and tighten it before you pick the bike back up. What that does is make sure that there's oil in the top end when you first start the bike, and you don't start it with dry valves and a dry top end. I've never done that on any other bike before, so I don't know if that's specific to KTM, but it's definitely in the manual, and I think that it's a really good idea. I wish I'd been doing it in the past. Brand new KTM oil filter. The rubber O-ring side of it goes in. Press it down on the fitting in there, and you put the cap on and tighten it. Again, super low torque on these, so make sure you don't over tighten these, really low. You can then pick the bike back up and go ahead and fill it with oil, and you're done. I like to use the factory recommended oil for these motors. In this case, it's Motorex 10W50 for 4T motors. I believe it takes about a quart to do a change. There's a fill level indicator here. When the oil level is at center of the target on the fill level window, that's when the bike's full of oil. Make sure that before you check it, you start it so that oil can flush through the system, and let it sit for at least a minute before you check the oil level. The oil level needs to be checked with the bike on a level spot and leveled, not leaning on its kickstand. So now I've got a little bit less than a quart in. I'm going to start it and get the oil pumped all through the oil filter and everything, and then we'll check the level again and top it off. Quick tip, I bought a gallon of this stuff on eBay. I'm going to keep one of these quart containers around, fill it from the gallon, because these are really easy to measure off of and really easy to pour in from. So you can see here the oil is just touching the bottom of the target almost. So we've got a little bit ways to go. There we go. Center of the target. I think that's pretty good. Once you've got oil in it, or before, you can go ahead and remount the skid plate and you're ready to go. Remember, it's about every 10 hours that you want to change that oil level. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. We're pretty excited about this KTM 500. We're doing a complete build video. We've already got a first ride impression and changing the tires and putting tubeless in on this bike. So check out those videos too. We'll throw some links up. Thanks, guys. See you next time.